Did you know that despite making up 50% of sellers, women hold just 30% of the sales leadership roles? It's not a pipeline problem. That's a promotion problem. Welcome to the Women in Sales Leadership podcast, where we make the new rules of success for high-performing women in sales. And I'm your host, Amy Evans, sales leader turned executive coach. After 25 years in the trenches at Salesforce, EDP, and startups, I now help ambitious sales managers step into second-line leadership roles. If you are ready to lead with authority, earn what you're worth, and make a bigger impact, you are in the right place. Click follow so the next episode will be waiting for you. Hello, and welcome back to Women in Sales Leadership. I'm your host, Amy Evans, and today's conversation is one that I think every single one of you needs to hear, because I struggled with this, and almost every single sales leader, executive, founder that I talk to struggles with this. And that is just really talking about letting go of some control and some perfectionism. And the biggest thing of all, which is this belief that somehow you have to do it all by yourself. So my guest today, I'm so fired up, is Paige Mcpheely. Paige is the brilliant CEO and co-founder of Base, which is a platform that's redesigning how leaders and executive assistants work together. Yeah, you heard that right. Executive assistant. It's not just a dream. We're going to talk about how it could be real for you. So Paige's story is one of entrepreneurship, growth, learning how to ask for and accept help, a thing that we don't do a very good job with. And Paige, I am so thrilled to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me, Amy. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, so Paige, you started your career in corporate America, right? Corporate sales and business development before you launched your first company. What was the turning point for you that made you say, okay, I'm ready to leave corporate and I'm going to go build something on my own? Because I think so many of us dream about doing that and we are scared to even consider it.
Yes. So I'll paint the picture briefly. We had just moved from Charleston, South Carolina to Austin. My husband had just finished his MBA. I was 7 months pregnant or so, and I was laid off. And so we're like, okay,
Oh,
now what are we
man.
going to do? And no matter how what companies say, it is a lot harder to get a job when you are as huge as I was when you're pregnant, but just even pregnant in general.
No kidding.
But also I knew I didn't want to be in that grind. I really had this idea that there could be something better, and remote work really wasn't a thing back then. And so I often say I'm an accidental entrepreneur because I found myself with a need and a gift to give to the world that I thought I could sell in exchange for money.
Okay, I got it. And you did it. And you
Yes.
had a baby.
Yes. I had a baby. My co-founder also was a new mom of a little boy. And so we kind of started doing the math. One client came in, then another, and then another, and then another. And pretty quickly we were like, well, we don't have that many hours in the day. I think we could build a team around this. And started doing the math. And like, this makes a lot of sense. And we knew a lot of people who wanted fractional remote work. But were really, really smart, and they wanted to be engaged in interesting companies and working with interesting people. And so we launched our business over the next, I should know this, 4 or 5 years. We had 6 boys total between the two of us.
Wow. It's like a basketball team.
Yes, exactly. And then, yeah, that was almost 12 years ago.
Yeah, unbelievable. So let's talk about the gap that you see in how the leaders that your organization, your company supports. Like, what are the gaps in where and how they're getting or not getting the right support? What do you notice most often?
That's such an interesting way to put that question. And the biggest gap is that it's typically not offered by your company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until you're C-suite, and maybe even not then for many people. So I think the fact that it just doesn't even exist, and it's culturally, we think of having an executive assistant as this luxury and something you have to earn at the peak of your career. When in fact you look at the data of leaders that have support and can delegate the tasks that are not directly pushing their business forward, they're far more productive and far more successful. So that's a huge gap. And then I think also we don't really know how to work with an assistant. It's the number one question I get, whether people have an assistant or not. They're just like, kind of, am I doing this right? I don't know
Yeah.
what to do. Is this even good? Are they good? Am I good? So yeah, those are probably the two biggest gaps.
Yeah. I mean, so I can relate to that. Let's see. I got access to an executive assistant when I became a second line sales leader. And even then, it was like I had access to my boss's assistant. And the way that I chose to work that situation, that's how I'll describe it. I worked the situation because I knew I was like the lowest person on the totem pole. And this assistant, you know, didn't formally have any reason to do anything for me. And so I went the route that I went all throughout my career, which was I'm just going to be so nice. I'm going to be so kind. I'm going to give little gifts. I'm going to use just all of the little levers that I know to pull to get this person to feel good about doing things for me.
Mhm.
And it was, expense reports. That's like low hanging fruit. I was like, I can't show me anybody who wants to do an expense report. No one. And so I did it that way. So it's like I begged, borrowed, and stole like access to an assistant. But even then it was like really minimal stuff that I was having this person do for me. And she was sweet and kind enough to do it. She liked me, thank goodness. And so she did it. But I needed so much more help than that. Um, and I think one of the challenges that I had when I actually got a assistant in corporate was figuring out how do I have this person truly help me, and how do I let go of the stuff,
Mm.
because that mentality of it'll take me longer to show my assistant how to do it or explain how to do it than just me doing it myself.
Right. Yes. That's so common. And I'll say too, that assistant, when you were put on her plate, she probably wasn't really told what to do. And I'm guessing you weren't given a lot of guidance
Nope.
either for what to do.
Nope.
So you're not alone there. But having done this now hundreds, if not thousands of times, there's a way to do it. There's a process that can follow. And that's what we've really been obsessive about developing over the last almost 12 years is how can you delegate in a smart way that doesn't feel like a ton of work? And it is work, right? You have to put
Yeah.
some thought behind what are the things that really drag you down and how do you invest in this relationship and treat them like a valued member of your team. But I will say there are a lot of assistants out there that like doing expense reports that like and that's actually really helped me is I might be getting rid of stuff that really drags me down and I continue to procrastinate on, but there are people in the world who actually enjoy those tasks and find joy in doing them. And what a beautiful thing is that when you can like pair that together with in an organization.
Yeah, it is beautiful. It is beautiful. I don't. The universal disgust with doing expense reports, if you're a sales leader or an executive of any sort, is pretty high. I remember, I think I ran a sales contest one quarter where, there were all these payout, money bonuses that we paid out, but I threw a kicker in that said, if you were the top sales rep for the quarter, you got all your expense reports done by my assistant for like the next quarter. And
That's
you
a
would have
good one.
thought that I'd put like a lottery ticket on the table for that contest. Like people were so fired up about just having some administrative stuff that gets in the way of revenue production just taken off their plate so they can be like, man, I don't have to worry about that anymore. And that's just one item. So you talked about something a second ago, though, Paige, about this process where do you help talk about that? Like, how do you help an executive figure out how to get
Mhm.
most out of the person they're working with? Because I think that's really hard unless you're great at delegating, and most of us stink at it, including me. Um, or I did. I was not good at it about 5 years ago. I've learned, but um, learning how to do it and how to work with somebody is really hard. Is there process? And tell me more about that. What's that like?
Yes, absolutely. We find that most of the people that come to us, and I would argue most people in general, don't really know what an executive assistant can do, especially a great executive assistant. And that ends up being a lot of our sales conversations. We're like, wait, they can do that too? Yes. Like, just we can get all of this off your plate, and it doesn't only have to be the expense reports and kind of the obvious stuff that you think of when you think of an assistant. Um, so whatever the task may be, we've got one client who she is into podcasting. And so we found her an executive assistant who has experience in that area. So the tasks that she does are completely different from the director of engineering at a larger organization, right? Like their needs are totally different, but the process is the same of mentally thinking about what do I what do I need to focus on to drive my business forward? What am I doing that is not contributing to that? And how can I work with this person to help point me like an arrow in the direction that I need to go? And so we've got processes on both sides for the executive assistant to help uncover those things, for the client to walk them through that. And in fact, that process is what we use. It's not the full discovery process, but kind of that initial deep dive is what we use to help find the match for the client, which is our real sweet spot, is finding that ideal match. And we built a software platform to help us do that.
Okay.
But even just that process of getting us the information we need to create your match is so valuable. And then beyond that, the first 30 days in particular are critical, first 90, but the first 30, especially, we have a tried and true process that our clients are walked through in the first 30 days to help get them started.
Hey, quick break for a second. If you are a sales leader who is ready for your next step up, and I'm talking about leading other sales leaders, becoming a director, a VP, even a CRO, then this is for you. I'm hosting a free workshop. You can grab your spot at amyevanscoaching.com. This is for sales leaders who are in tech and are wanting to land jobs where you can earn anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million a year. And again, you can grab your spot at amyevanscoaching.com. Okay, back to the show. Yeah. I'm trying to think about like, what are the things that would stop somebody who knows they need help and like wants to do it, but and the things that I'm thinking of are, you know, so if you help with the onboarding and the matchmaking, then that solves that question. The other question is, okay, I'm one of two people. I'm either a leader inside a corporate business where I don't have budget or access to an assistant, and I can either choose to pay out of pocket for that person, or maybe I can make a business case for why the company should be reimbursing me for this assistant. Have you seen some of your clients do that before?
Yeah, we see both of those
Yeah.
frequently. Um, so much of it is baked into the culture. If the C-suite has assistants and they have good assistants that they really value, you're way more likely to get that budget approval. But it seems like that kind of middle core section of leaders in organizations just continue to get squeezed from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on the organization, it can be a really hard sell to get approval for that. But especially when you're a revenue focused role, the ROI is pretty darn clear. So
Yeah. Yeah.
depends.
Fascinating. And then I think the other side of the coin is, you've got your entrepreneurs, whether they're solos or, maybe they've got a few people working with them justifying to themselves, the expense. And what do you say when you're trying to help somebody understand? It's one of those things, it feels like a luxury, but in the reality, it's not.
Right. There's a real challenge with optics, and I've heard that so many times of everybody on my team needs something, but they want another hire, they want more software, whatever it is, everybody's got something that costs money that they're asking for. And so then if I go and hire myself an executive assistant, what is that going to look like to the team? But there are some really clear ways around that. Even us, when we launched our software component of our business Base and we raised some venture funding, an executive assistant was among the first hires. We did an initial batch and an EA was one of them. And we even got kind of some double takes, and no one said don't do it, but like, of course, we have to do it. We have to put our money where our mouth is because I really believe in it. And these individuals can be such amplifiers for the work that you're doing. And you can bring, if you're an entrepreneur of a startup, you can bring an EA in who can wear so many different hats across the organization and be a value add to everybody on your team. And if you're a little bit bigger than that, to at least your leadership team.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the hats that you see? Because I'd love to hear more about that, because I have a pretty limited perspective of having been a sales leader with an EA. And I guarantee you I underutilized that person. I know I did. And I thought I thought I was doing a pretty good job.
Right. Yeah. I think sales leaders are a great example because it's so clear to you how you move the business forward. A lot of roles, it's a little bit harder. It can be more ambiguous to really tie your efforts to business growth. But when a sales leader has a really great EA, you should only be talking with potential clients. And there is basically no reason that your assistant can't be doing everything else on the back end for you. Prepping for the meetings, doing the follow-up for you, entering it into your CRM, making sure that you've got the thoughtful touches of, signing up for the Google alerts on your leads so you can compliment them on so-and-so that was in the press. They can run your lives from the back end so that you are free to, I love the arrow analogy, especially for sales leaders. You are pointed like an arrow exactly where you need to go, and you can reserve all of your energy for that.
Yeah. I mean, when I had my person, and I have other assistants, I have other people in my company now that do some specific functions, and maybe Paige, you and I need to talk afterwards about some other support I need, because a big part of it is just like this mental block of giving myself permission. What I went to like a 2-day seminar on delegation early in my leadership career. And in that whole 2 days, I walked out with one thing. And that one thing was this. And it's do the things that only you can do. Do the things that only you can do. Anything else, get help. Delegate if you can. And I took that and I started to dabble in figuring out how to delegate. And so when I did get access to that first assistant, I did like the little stuff, the expense reports. But then I started to do things like, okay, you're going to do event coordination for me. You're going to plan all of my sales team meetings and schedule all of it. I was too much of a control freak to let go of travel booking for myself. So I'm just going to be honest.
It's a hard one. Yeah.
I'm very particular about my travel and all of that stuff. So that wasn't something I could let go of. Like I probably maybe I need some hypnotherapy or something like that. That might allow me someday to let go of travel booking. But everything else I started to let this person do, and it was like if I was doing executive outreach to prospects, I would send the email and I would CC my assistant on it, and my assistant would do the follow-up to the other executive and say, hey, let's get this meeting booked. Yeah. Right.
That.
Right. And so she became like this sales part of the sales organization for me. And I'm
Mhm.
trying to imagine if I'm in the shoes of a sales, if I'm working in corporate and I either have an existing job and I'm going to decide, like, am I just going to eat this cost and write it off on my taxes as an unreimbursed business expense? Am I going to go to my boss and say, hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to submit this cost as an expense and see if they'll approve it? Like, what's the worst thing? They're going to say no. That's the worst thing could
Mhm.
possibly happen. And then the other thing is to try to weigh out, right, the time savings and what the implication is for you as a leader in your own business of what would it mean for me if I could get 3 to 10 hours, maybe a lot more, back every
Mhm.
week. What
Mhm.
would it mean for my business? What would it mean for my health? What would it mean for my mental well-being? And Paige,
Mhm.
what do you see there? I'm just kind
Yeah.
of making stuff up here about, like, how do you get past the block of giving yourself permission to get help
Mhm.
in this way?
It is an emotional decision. You have to be ready to lean into the support, especially for the type of executive assistants that we work with. These are really high level individuals who integrate into your organization, and it's an investment of time and money. Um, but we actually built out a personal ROI calculator on our website for this very
Mm.
reason,
Oh,
especially for sales leaders. You know your hourly rate, you know what your time is worth. And to put it very bluntly, every single task in every organization should be pushed down to the lowest hourly rate. And so if you've got a really high paid sales leader or any leader who is doing expense reports or whatever those things might be that you could easily delegate to a lower hourly rate, you're wasting money.
yeah.
And so we've got the personal ROI calculator that looks at it on an individual basis. And then, like you mentioned, there's so many of those intangibles of if you had an extra hour a day back in your life, would you spend more time with your kids?
Yeah.
What kind of results would that yield over the years? Would you exercise? Would you sleep
Yeah.
more?
Yeah.
Who knows? And you can't measure that, but it can be truly life changing.
I think you can measure it, actually. It's not going to be on a spreadsheet. It's going to
Right.
be like
Certainly feel it.
yeah, your energy, your joy, your vitality, and all of those things are what it takes to show up and be fully present and execute in your job every day. Um, Imagine just enjoying it more. Like, joy is
Right.
underrated. Like, everybody talks about joy and how to get access to it. It's rest, it's health, and it's relationships and connection, and all of that requires time. So what you're talking about is buying back time. I would love to talk a little bit more about you, though, for a second,
Yes.
because I want you and I were talking before we hit record, and you made a really bold move in your life, which was to move from the US to living and working and operating your company out of Europe. I would love to hear you talk about, like, this journey of adventure and really, like, being willing to kind of like let it go and go for it and not just settle for, I've grown up in the US and I had this dream that we were going to raise our children abroad, and what does that look like? So please share a little bit more about that.
Yes. So we moved to Valencia, Spain, almost a year and a half ago. I've got three sons who are ages 8 to 11. And it was kind of this idea that we had in the back of our minds from the start of we would love to live in different places. My husband and I both moved a lot, but also we would love them to learn a new language and just experience the culture that the world can offer because especially when kids are little, you live in a bubble, right? You are doing all the little kid things and you're interacting with a lot of the same people. And we traveled a lot, but I don't think you can replace being in a new environment. And the other really important thing to us, when our kids were at a fantastic public school, we were in Greenville, South Carolina, really an amazing public school. But it wasn't hard for them. And they were always kind of not centered, but welcome in every space that they were in their lives. And we even said like they could use to be knocked down a couple pegs. So planting them in an area where they are absolutely the outsiders, nothing is easy for them. They are really learning how to do hard things. And our goal ultimately is for them to grow up to be more interesting people than they would have otherwise. So it has been a journey. I would do it again, but it's not been easy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. I mean, me included, right? Like, I have these dreams of, and that's a big part of the reason that I have my business that I have. Like the vision is that once my kids are out of school, which will be in a few years, I can live anywhere and I can run my business from anywhere. And that kind of freedom is so inspiring and exciting. I know, not without its own like funky moments and adventures that are part of any adventure that you take on of like, I'm going to go do something different than I've always known. But it's really exciting to think about that and consider that as a career objective. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One reason that we love Spain so much is because the culture is so different and it moves at such a different pace. And my husband and I are both entrepreneurs, and we have been grinding for a long time, plus having three babies in 3 years. And so we thought if we're ever going to step out of this grind, we might have to be forced out of it.
Yeah.
And we've definitely found that in Spain. They drink beer at 10 in the morning as their second meal of the day. And it's,
Wait, did you just say drinking beer at 10 in the morning?
yes, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yep. It's wild. You walk down the
Mhm.
street and there are people of a huge array of ages drinking just a little beer,
Mhm. Mhm.
not the doble, not the big ones, but a little beer, and they're having maybe a churro or something like that, and then they go about their day. But they have a term for it here that I love so much. It's called sobremesa, which is it literally means around the table. And so
Mm.
it's not just the experience of consuming whatever it is you order at a restaurant, it's the experience of sitting and being there. And so they might stay at a table for hours after they finish, which could you imagine doing that in the
No,
States?
they'd be bringing you the check and be standing there hovering like, get out. We want to
Yes,
seat this. We want to
exactly.
turn this table so we can sell more food.
Right, exactly. So there's a trade-off. Like the service isn't always super attentive because they're expecting you to sit there for hours, but it's been such a beautiful, painful but beautiful experience to be ripped out of that.
Yeah, I can't imagine like the adjustment. And then there's also freedom that comes when you make big changes like that in your life, where you think, okay, this was hard, but we did it and it's working for us. And then the next time you want to make a change like that, you have that experience to draw on and say, we did that. What else can we do?
Right. Yeah, exactly. We call it stretching. Like we're in the stretching period. And there are some things we can look back and realize, oh man, we did that. That was really painful stretching. And some of it we're still in the middle of.
Well, I don't know when the stretching ends. So, like,
Yeah,
I hope it doesn't,
never.
by the way. I really
Yeah,
don't.
exactly.
Yeah. So, what's one of the things that you think, going back to mindset shift and delegation, like, is there a mindset shift that you think really helps women specifically delegate more confidently that you've seen?
To delegate more confidently. Oh, that's interesting. Um, I think so much of it for women, in my experience, myself included, is being given the permission that you deserve the help. And I think intellectually, most of us understand that, but truly internalizing it and believing it that you're not imposing on someone else to ask for their help. And it's not a bad thing for you to get these things off your plate. So many women who are leaders are also high achievers. They're highly productive individuals who have been rewarded for that behavior their entire lives. And so actually doing less can feel like cheating and come with guilt,
Mm,
which I feel so deeply. But just remembering like this is actually how I amplify myself by sharing the load has been really valuable.
that is, I love that thought about cheating. You know, I wouldn't hesitate, and many of us wouldn't hesitate to hire somebody to help us clean our homes or, care for our young children. Uh, Somehow this feels somehow different, and that it's a move for purely you, and giving permission and accepting that you're worthy of that kind of investment has got to
Yes.
be part of the breakthrough that you make
Mhm.
along the way. Um,
Unexpected hurdle of being in Spain and of like reevaluating my life to have more space is realizing myself and how many of us feel wrong if we're not really stressed out. I think we have internalized,
mm,
we have such deep muscle memory for how to be stressed, and kind of on that verge of burnout, that even if we have all the pieces in place, we don't really know how to appreciate it and enjoy it. And I'm finding increasingly I'm not alone in that feeling of I'm getting the stuff off my plate, but I still don't feel like I can like relax, because then I'm not trying hard
yeah.
enough. I'm not proving my worth.
Oh, I definitely felt that way. It took me like a year to get detoxed from that stress culture, where feeling that stress and anxiety was so normal for me that I didn't feel right if I didn't feel that way.
Yeah.
And it took it took a year for me to unplug from that, and it was a it was a challenging process. And now I have these great clients. I have a growing business. And yes, there are days where I wake up and I'm like, oh no, I've got all these things,
Totally.
but I don't let myself live in that stress out zone, because I'm so committed to managing my energy, and I've hired help to help me do the things that I am not great at, that I need help with, so that I can go do the part that I'm great at and that I know will drive my business forward. And I think that's like the take home for what you're trying to do. Paige, I have to ask this because everybody's wondering, and I feel like if I don't cover this, that I'm going to leave them unsatisfied. So help my listener understand, like, what would be the level of financial investment that they would be looking at if they were wanting to hire somebody. Are you in a position where you could like give a range or something like that to give perspective?
Yes, we can do that. So we have two main paths that you can choose when you come to work with Base. One is you want to hire somebody internally. We all know how hard hiring can be, and especially if you're not as it's a lot easier to hire someone in your same functional lane than it
Hmm.
is to hire an executive assistant. And so we've got a product where we find you candidates, and then you pick one to do a trial with for
Hmm.
2 to 4 weeks. And that's really the way to find out if you have the right person or not. And if not, we keep going to find you the right fit. And so it's like a recruitment sort of product, but much more hands-on and way more of a guarantee for the end result. And then our initial product, and really the one that's our bread and butter, is a flexible product, and it's all based on your needs. So we see people come in who need anywhere from quarter time to 3/4 time, sometimes veering closer to full time support for one or two individuals. And that hourly range is so I'll give you two prices. So
Yeah.
$65 an hour is the average, but we actually offer a 20.72% discount to women. I can't remember if we spoke about that
We
before.
did. I remember.
Yeah.
And it's this like funky number, and there's a reason behind the funky number on the
Yes,
discount.
exactly. And I'm doing math in my head live, which is always a really bad idea.
No,
But
no, don't do it. Don't try.
yeah,
I'm also
okay. So
not great at math in
I'm
my head.
I'm giving you ballparks of numbers, but I know the 20.72 is accurate because that's the year that McKinsey predicts that all women will reach true pay parity with
Yeah.
men. And that's a really long ways away. And so we were like, you know what, enough. There are enough barriers already for women to getting help, and we don't want the price to be just another barrier for high caliber support that we offer. So every woman until 2072 gets this discount on every hour of support that they
Yeah.
receive from a base EA. But the general ballpark on a monthly basis can be anywhere like 2,500 to 3,500, give or
Yeah.
take, depending on what you're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. But when you put that against hiring a person, that is super affordable, super affordable. And then I'm
Yes.
wondering, there was one more question I had. Let me see if I can remember it right now. You've got the ROI calculator on the website, which I know is really powerful. Where are the assistants located?
Yes,
In the
all in the
world?
US.
Okay,
All
got
in the
it.
US. We can support clients anywhere, but all of our assistants are US based. With the way technology is changing so rapidly, and there's all this talk in our space, right, about AI is going to replace assistants, we are doubling, tripling down on the human, because I think that's the real value of the support, is this human centric support that's backed by technology, but you know, you're not necessarily having to
Yeah,
interact with the technology. So that was the other thing that I was going to say is it's not a crazy investment when you're looking at bringing someone in, but also the peace of mind. I talked about how the match is so critical for us, but sometimes it's more of an art than a science, right? So sometimes you might find out it's not the right fit, and that we're still there. We're still there to help you find the new candidate, to help you transition, to make sure that you get ramped up with them, because so many people come to us and they're hesitant because they've had a bad experience with an assistant in the
yeah,
past. But
yeah.
this is the most intimate professional relationship that exists. So the match is critical. And I
Hmm.
think that's where we can really shine.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. So Paige, for the women that are listening today, how can they go, after they stop listening to this episode, like how can they find you, go figure out, how to work with you? What do you suggest for that?
Yeah, two places. Basehq.com is our website, Base's website, where you'll find everything you need to know about working with an assistant there. You can also find more about me and some of the stuff I'm working on at PaigeMcpheely.com, which I'm sure you'll have the spelling
I will.
there.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'll put that in the show notes. So I'll put those links
yes,
there in the show notes. But if somebody's listening and they're just like, "Hey, I want to go grab this website," they can
yes.
do that. Paige, it was such a pleasure to get to connect with you and learn all about your adventures in moving to Spain, about this amazing commitment to elevating women leaders and helping them take themselves to the next level by giving them the kind of support that they need to perhaps find a way to decompress and de-stress and hand off the things that someone else can take care of for them and give themselves permission to do that. It was such a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much, Amy.
Hey there. Thank you so much for joining today. I know you're a super generous person, and a gift that you could give to someone you know, a friend, a colleague that you think would enjoy today's episode would be to send them a text, share a link to this episode with them. I do produce this show myself, and every time you share it, it helps the podcast grow and it supports the work that I do here. Also, if you happen to be a sales leader who is ready to take your next step up into a leader of leaders role, whether it's via promotion or you're ready to go get that new job at a new company, I'm talking about director roles, VP roles, even CRO roles in B2B tech, where you can earn $500,000 to $1 million or more. The workshop I'm giving is an hour-long workshop. It's totally free. You'll learn the process that I teach my clients on how to effectively position themselves, effectively network, and own their executive presence so they can land the job and get hired and promoted into these big sales leadership roles in B2B tech. If this sounds like you, come grab your spot. It's waiting for you at my website, amyevanscoaching.com, where you can unlock what's next for you.